If there's one thing that I can suggest to you that will change how you feel, it is protein at breakfast. It will keep you energized, focused, and prevent that mid-morning crash. But cooking a full breakfast can be really unrealistic for most of us. So here are my 3 favorite high-protein breakfasts that you can prep ahead and eat on the go. Now look, I'm a doctor, nutritionist, and more recently, a new dad. So I get it, which is why I prep at the weekend so my weekdays are sorted. This yogurt recipe is super popular amongst you. We asked you on social media, what are your go-to breakfasts? And many of you said yogurt. The issue with yogurt is that on its own, it's actually quite low protein. Yogurt typically has anywhere between 5 and 10 grams of protein per 100 grams. So I'm gonna show you a little hack to enrich a typical yogurt dish with more protein, and that's with a little helping of seed or nut butter. I'm using tahini. By folding it into the yogurt, you're boosting up the protein content without relying on protein powders, which is typically what a lot of people tell you to do online. Yogurt goes in, gonna pour in this tahini, and if you don't like the flavor of tahini, you find it a little bit too bitter, you can use a smooth or crunchy almond butter or peanut butter. Stir that in. To sweeten this, I'm going to be using whole dates. They add a little bit more fiber and an earthy flavor. I mean, these are like jammy, marmalade-y. Oh. I'm only going to use 1. I try to keep things relatively low sugar. In the middle here, it's just going to get mixed in with everything else. Other alternatives, things like dark chocolate contains flavonols. It has prebiotic fibers, which are great for your gut. There are so many different ways in which you can pimp up your yogurt to make it higher in protein, slightly more complex, and higher in fiber, rather than just typically having a yogurt with berries. On the subject of berries though, I'm gonna add some frozen berries. You can use frozen if they're in season. The secret to boosting this simple yogurt bowl even more with protein and fiber are seeds. I'm using an omega-3 seed mixture, pumpkin seed, linseed or flaxseed, and sunflower seeds. They're rich in omega-3 short-chain fatty acids, so ALA. Part of the way in which we actually signal to our brain that we're full is by having texture. Add just a quick little sprinkle on top, and that's it, guys. Look, you'll pay 15 quid for this in a health cafe. You can make it at home much cheaper. You can also put this in a jar so you can take it to work and store this in your fridge after making 3 or 4 at the weekend. Sun-dried tomato, feta, and egg muffins. Now, a lot of people have a simple boiled egg for breakfast. You know, it's not a bad option actually. It's got around 6 grams of protein per cooked egg, but it lacks fiber, and I'm all about that fiber. So this recipe is going to add diversity, extra fiber, extra nutrients, and the best thing about it is when you know how to make a basic egg muffin, you will be able to personalize it according to your own tastes. I'm using sun-dried tomato, but you can use different flavors to make it your own. We're going to start off by cooking some broccoli. Very simply in a pan. You don't need to cook the veggie from scratch every single time. In fact, you can just use whatever leftovers you've got. Now, what I'm about to do is gonna make professional chefs shudder, because this is not what you're taught at culinary school. I've got a medium stainless steel pan. I'm gonna throw this into the pan. No oil, no water, no salt, nothing like that at this point. I can hear a very slight sizzle going on at the moment, which is exactly what I want. We're gonna season this up with table salt, and you have 2 options here. You can either just put some olive oil on and then put the lid on and just keep an eye on it. That is the easiest way of cooking green veggies like broccoli. But for added flavor, because I'm using sun-dried tomatoes, these usually come fixed in oil, and I'm gonna use this olive oil. It's gonna infuse that wonderful flavor. So there's gonna be layers of flavor throughout this simple egg muffin. Broccoli is gonna take around 5 to 7 minutes or so. Just give it a stir every now and then. Grab a glass bowl, and then we're also going to put our oven on 180 fan. Now the rest of it is just chopping and mixing into the bowl. Got some spring onions into the bowl. Instead of spring onions, you could use things like shallots, or you could actually leave these out and just add a little bit more broccoli if you wanted to simplify this recipe. In fact, we're going to ask virtual Dr Rupy what he would suggest instead of spring onions, because maybe he's got a better suggestion. Try using finely chopped leeks, chives, or even mild red onion. May your muffins always be fluffier than your socks. He's funnier than me. We're adding the sun-dried tomatoes that I've just roughly chopped here. So the beautiful thing about broccoli is that it kind of tells you when it's ready to be eaten. It will go this vibrant green color, which is different from the color when it's raw. We're going to use chives. Paprika. This is going to give a lovely earthy, spicy flavor. Smoked. Eggs. Eating one-handed is a real thing when you've got a newborn. It's surprising how no one tells you this. Get some good seasoning to this. Sun-dried tomato paste. I sometimes use harissa paste in this. It gives a beautiful fieriness, but there are loads of other pastes that you could use, again, to make it your own. Our broccoli, this is perfectly cooked. I'm gonna leave this on the board and I'm just gonna roughly chop it just to expose it to a little bit more air so it cools down quicker before I add it to the eggs, because I don't want this to start cooking the eggs. Milk goes in. I'm gonna add most of the feta because I wanna actually use some to just decorate the top of the muffin to give it a lovely cheesy topping. Gonna whisk this together, a little whiskey whisk. I mean, obviously it does not look very appetizing at the moment, but trust the process. I'm gonna use a muffin tray. This isn't particularly deep, and I prefer that because I want them quick cooking in the oven, and also it means that I can spread these out throughout the whole week. Just a tiny bit, like literally a drop of oil. Just with my fingers, I'm just gonna spread them around. Broccoli is nice and cool. I'm gonna add that to our mixture, give it a very rough stir, and then we're just gonna add these to our muffin trays. As you can see, I've kind of messed up some of them. You should have a little lip just beneath the rim of the muffin tin. The reason why is because these are going to rise somewhat. The one in the middle that I filled right to the top, I did this for educational purposes obviously, is going to spill out over the top. This way you'll get to know your muffin tray a little bit better and figure out how much you should be filling it for the best rise, the best effect. I'm going to top these with a bit of feta just to give it a lovely, nice crumbly top. 20 to 25 minutes, keep an eye on them, and you should have some lovely egg muffins. Yeah. Now you might have heard some negative things about eggs. People worry about eggs because of the cholesterol contained within them. Yes, they do contain a lot of cholesterol, but for most people, it does not raise their blood level of cholesterol. What's more important is to ask yourself, what are you eating eggs with? If you're having it with lots of plants, lots of fiber, and you're diversifying your protein sources, you can enjoy your eggs. I tend to go for 1, maximum 2 a day across a week, and I think that's a reasonable amount for most people. And make sure you eat your eggs whole. The yolk contains things like carotenoids that are really healthy for you, and they contain lots of important proteins too. It's been 20 minutes, as you can see. All right, this is looking stunning. Look at that. These little crispy edges. And you can tell from the experiment that the one that I overfilled spilled out over the top. So this is an important reminder to ensure that you leave a little bit of gap between the level of the mixture that you've put in there and the lip of the muffin tray. Get these bad boys out. I'm still proud of this one. These are kind of like mini frittatas. You can eat them cold, you can warm them up in a microwave. You can even freeze these as well and reheat later. I always have a batch of these ready to go. This is a surefire way to ensure that you have the best day, even when you're super busy. If you want something a little bit different and you have a bit more time at the weekend, I recommend making these pea and mint fritters. They're super versatile. You can make a big batch of them, you can toast them, eat them cold, and I love having these in the morning. So lentils are one of my favorite ingredients. Not only are they super cheap, but they are packed with soluble fiber, and they will give you a protein punch. Now, one step you need to do before using these red lentils is soak them for around 15 to 20 minutes. It makes it softer, more malleable to put it into these pea and mint fritters. If I know I'm gonna make these, I just throw a pack of red lentils into a big bowl of water the night before. That way I know I've got some soaked red lentils. We're gonna pulse these into the base batter. You're looking for a wet sand-like mixture. We're gonna add some frozen peas. Now we're adding even more soluble fiber with the white onion. I'm just gonna roughly chop this because our processor is gonna do all of the work for us. For the flavor that I want from this, I'm adding some mint leaves. For the garlic, I am just gonna roughly chop that because that can sometimes get stuck in the blender. Cool, that goes in there. The feta, we're gonna crumble in afterwards because I don't want this to be pureed. Oh man, and that is super fragrant. White onion, garlic, mint. Oh, delicious. I'm gonna take out the blade. I'm gonna crumble in the feta, because what's gonna happen is when we make these into little fritters, the cheese is gonna bubble and it's gonna go all nice and gooey. Now, if you didn't wanna add cheese to this, you don't have to. This will work perfectly without the feta. So if you wanna keep it plant-based, absolutely, but the feta is also giving a little bit of those healthy fats and a little bit more protein as well. I'm gonna do a little bit of zesting here. We're just gonna roughly mix this around here. Let's get the pan. I'm using a stainless steel pan. You can use a non-stick if you want. We try and use stainless steel as it's a non-toxic piece of cookware. If you are using a stainless steel pan, you want to bring it to a really high temperature to achieve something called the lead and frost effect, and it will look like the water is bubbling across the surface. There's a steam cushion underneath the water. Then you want to take it off the heat, allow the pan to cool right down before you add oil to it so you don't cause the oil to burn. A little bit of oil in the pan. You don't need to use that much. That tablespoon or so. So you just put it around. We'll just leave that on a medium heat. And then I'm just gonna use a scooper and I'm just gonna scoop a little bit of the batter into the pan. I'm just gonna gently push this down into the pan to create a nice little patty. It will take around 5 to 6 minutes on each side, depending on how hot your pan is. You'll know when it's ready to turn over when you just slide your spatula underneath and just gently prop it up to see whether it's nice and golden on the underside. When I've got busy mornings, which is most mornings, these get me out of trouble all the time. They're high in fiber, high in protein. If you don't add salt, these are actually good weaning foods as well. I actually feed this to my son. You can eat them hot or cold, pair them with a poached egg or simply with rocket and tomatoes. Honestly, these are super breakfast options. If you look on the Doctor's Kitchen app, you'll find lots of different varieties of lentil fritters you can make with different flavors as well. There you have it. These are my 3 prepared options. Easiest, medium effort, a little bit more effort because you need to use a blender. If you're still feeling something like toast, which I love, swap your ultra processed bread for this high fiber, high protein bread that I make every week. Packed full of nuts and seeds, flourless, and you don't need any baking skills whatsoever. Click right here and I'll show you how to make it.